Hello. I am Nyree Clayton Taylor, and my partner Matt. Is he on here? He had to log off. So we're going to just get started. Welcome, Jefferson County teachers and educators and students. Welcome. And we want to talk to you today about Justice Now Learning Hubs. And what we want you to know is that Louisville is our classroom and justice is our curriculum. And so at Justice Now, we have a mission. And our mission is Justice Now will empower students to be the change as we make Louisville our classroom and justice our curriculum. With Justice Now is the program, is the school that Matt and I are using to empower our students to make a change in the community. And for 14 weeks, students will be able to participate in learning of a magnitude of standards and justice. And so from there, once they've learned and presented, then there will be a Justice Fest. And at Justice Fest, students will present their collaborative projects to an audience filled with potential partners and funders in order to advance their work and increase their leadership capacity. So not only are students going to learn, but they're going to take their learning and present, and they are going to be students that will be able to have nonprofits, start a business, and use their entrepreneurship to get funded from local business leaders.
And what's so cool about this is that we're creating an inter-school movement. So at Justice Fest, it's not a competition where we've got one or two winners. We're developing 4 really, really strong justice cohorts who will then be presenting their work to a wide array of funders to continue their projects and to keep bringing it to the next level. And this can be the same project kids do year after year after year as they continue to grow it. The limits of our work here are the limits of our imagination.
So why Justice Now? We know that this year has been a year. This year, our African-American students especially have faced a pandemic within a pandemic, and they've been exposed to repeated images of racial trauma due to police brutality, heightened gun violence in their communities, and a disproportionate spread of COVID-19 in their communities. And it is because of these factors that Matt and I and Ashley Lamb Sinclair, we sat down and thought, what can we do to help students in our community? And so that's what Justice Now will do. Justice Now is a platform for students that will encourage civic engagement, provide an educational hub that intertwines racial equity and deeper learning in the backpack, and it will recognize the skills that students have already learned during this pandemic, and understands that our students are coming back to us differently than they left. School has to change.
And so this slide just shows like that Nyree and I and Ashley Lamb Sinclair, we worked this summer to really put this program together. It's really powerful because it's an intergenerational model. We've got elementary, middle, and high school kids together in this hub with the natural mentorship that happens with that. We're also wrapping them around with a larger community that empowers them to create tangible results and systemic reform. So these students will be working side by side with their teachers and a wide array of community leaders through our advisory council who have been doing this justice work in the community. So kids want to start their own nonprofits, their own businesses, become grassroots organizers, become tomorrow's legislators. Our advisory council is filled with nonprofit founders like Karina Barales with La Casita Center, like Lamont Collins from Roots 101, African American Museum. It's filled with entrepreneurs like Tawana Bain. It's filled with legislators like Ja'Cory Arthur. So we've got a really powerful group here And these are the schools that we are linking arms with high school, middle, and elementary. And so we're meeting twice a week with them as a whole cohort, and then doing individual meetings also. And this is going to be the foundation of our inter-school movement that we're going to be building off of.
And so when we talk about who is Justice Now, this school is for all students. It's for students with mixed ability. It's for students who are engaged and not engaged in NTI. It's for students who are asking those tough questions during NTI and who are already coming to us with that justice mindset. And so this will impact students because it's their passion. It's their passion. And yes, it's a passion project, but it's deeper than a passion project because these students are going to enact change in the community. We have a number of teachers who have gone out of their way to say that they want to work in this initiative with us. And so we are excited about the partnership that we will be able to extend with our teachers and our students.
This just gives you a little bit of an idea of how we're selecting students from schools. Numbers are going to vary. Some schools are wanting us to submit 40 kids. Some are getting about 15. But this is how we started presenting to principals. And we're growing our student roster from the teachers and the schools out. And again, we're so excited about this because it is intergenerational, elementary, middle, and high. And it's also getting schools to collaborate with each other. So often we've been in competition, and we're just so excited about the partnerships that will happen as schools link arms together to address justice issues in their communities.
And so, like Matt had talked to you about earlier, that these students, this is going to be a different type of learning. Very different. And the learning is not going to be centered on the teacher. The learning is going to come from the students, of course, but it's also going to come from our advisory ambassador council. If you look, these are the names of the advisory council. We have Councilman Ja'Cory Arthur, who is the youngest councilman ever to be here in Louisville. Tawana Bain. We have Karina Bursalis. We have Andrew Brennan. We have Lamont Collins of Roots 101. We have Councilwoman Keisha Dorsey. We have Hannah Drake, a poet and an activist. Just think, the students in your classroom that want to write poetry, they can get a TED Talk by Hannah Drake. We have Theo Edmonds, Odwin Helton, who was helpful. He was so helpful with starting Justice Now and a very big advocate of our work. We have Shamika Paris Wright. We have Miss Michelle Penix, Kish Kumi Price from the Urban League, Wendy Cerisho from We Day, Angela Masden, and Dr. Monica Unsell. And this is what this Ambassador Advisory Council will do. They will partner with students and teachers in justice and increase the opportunities and the resources for our students. They'll magnify the work of our students, and they'll increase the reach and voice of our students. The students will understand their spheres of influence. They'll understand what they can do, that if they dream it, they can do it because they are our future now.
And so when we start this, we have 4 major Justice Now cohorts, and students are going to need to find which cohort they really want to commit their time to this year. These are the 4 cohorts that will be presenting for our main event at Justice Fest to get funding to continue their work. So we created big umbrellas that we can fit anything under. The major thing that we know is those who do the leading do the learning. So it's what to kids want to lead on? Do they want to lead on, equal rights for all people? We're fighting for everybody. We know we're at our best when we all link arms and march forward together. So this is going to be a place for young African American, Latinx, LGBT, immigrant and refugee, for allies, to come together and to fight for a world that welcomes and embraces all of us. We know we're in the midst of climate change. We know we've got serious problems in Louisville with pollution in different areas of our community. So do we want to fight for that? Do we want to organize for that? And look at what we can do to improve the air, soil, and water in our community. We can also address educational justice. That'll be the civic empowerment gap, how students are getting their history or not getting their history in certain classes. Again, how we can leverage our privilege and resources and skills, and also looking at suspension and expulsion rates. But we want kids to really voice their concerns, and their ideas on what kind of education they need. We know we are living in a constantly changing world, and our educational system needs to change with it. And they're also be looking at community investment and disinvestment. And so again, we just put an umbrella underneath there of things that our students can explore and discuss. But ultimately, they're going to be the ones driving these issues, and we're going to be wrapping resources around them to increase their leadership capacity, their expertise, and prepare them to really put their dream into action. So I just wanted to give you an idea of what a possible project looks like. So through a collaborative intersectional model, every bit of knowledge, skills, and resources students gain will be utilized to address justice issues of their choosing. So 2 years ago, the Aspen Challenge came to Louisville, and my students took on the project of normalizing the conversations with mental health and getting rid of that stigma. One of my students, Soraya Mason, who is the girl in front on this photo from NPR, she wrote a letter to every single legislator in Kentucky. And I'm going to read an excerpt there. And this shows the justice issue that she really wanted to focus on. Here's what she said. There are no classes I've been exposed to that teach African American history with any kind of credible authority. We need credible experts on African American history in our schools to help fill the knowledge gap that we are enduring now and help put an end to the mental health crisis this lack of knowledge is creating. We are learning in a system that is systematically depriving us of crucial knowledge on who we are and where we come from. It is my belief that many behavioral infractions in the school to prison pipeline is a direct result of us being denied our history. After she wrote that letter, Attica Scott reached out. She agreed to pre-file this bill. And then those students that are behind her and Soraya, they wrote every single state legislator in Kentucky to get co-sponsors for this bill. And now it's sponsored as House Bill 9. It's actually been filed. And so we have that justice issue now, right? So now we have to imagine a project that utilizes an interdisciplinary approach to create tangible results and systemic reform on this race and education justice issue. So imagine how we could use history, literature, civics, psychology, music, theater, art, math, everything. What kind of products, what kind of calls to action and movements for reform that can be created because of this intersectional and this interdisciplinary approach. One thing our students will be able to do is create children's books this year. We have a partnership with Young Authors Greenhouse, and they're going to be publishing an anthology of our students' work, but they've also agreed to partner with us on a children's book. So linked in this presentation that I know you're making available to everybody is a link to that book. You can buy it at Carmichael's right now. This book focuses on intersectionality and kids embracing their superpowers of compassion and kindness. Next slide, please. And so after we imagine these disciplines and projects, imagine the partners we have. So this is a race, historical, and educational justice issue. So we've got partnerships with museums. We have partnerships with universities. We have partnerships with a publisher. Next slide, please. And here's some of the products we could create. We can create a children's book that teaches about and shows the connections between the abolitionist movement, the civil rights movement, and now, and how the slaves are the ones that freed themselves. We could listen to the radio plays from Actors Theater they're putting out right now and create a series of monologues and songs that utilize Black historical figures to teach about Black history and move our audience to action as we're getting that knowledge from Roots 101 and Kentucky Historical Society. After we create this show, we could, and when it's safe, we can bring it on the road, take it to other schools across the city, state, country. We can create exhibits and put them in our museums, with our partners in our museums, and enter them in national competitions so they can get placed in DC. And of course, everything we do, we're looking to create tangible products, but also argue some kind of systemic reform. So in this case, for this particular project, we'll be arguing and supporting House Bill 9. But each one of our coalitions, as they're creating tangible products, they're also going to be arguing against a bill, for a bill, or the creation of a bill. You can also think about the role of public art. So this is a potential project that documents ancestors and present-day leaders in the civil rights movement in Louisville. There's a group of Louisville artists and organizers working with Roots 101 on this right now. Lamont Collins has also opened up his museum to us to do a mural on his staircase at that museum. So just imagine that our kids, as they use Louisville as their classroom, Injustice as their curriculum, and seek to transform their city through products, through art, through business, through innovation, and all building up to Justice Fest, where they dream big and make that ask as we fill that room with funders to help support these kids' work and push it forward.
And so what I want you to think about is just how we can reimagine education. And so, and to know that our students during this pandemic, they have been learning. And so that we need to acknowledge what they've been learning. And so I just want to show you just two videos, especially this video with students and how they were interacting with Ja'Cory Arthur. Oops, excuse me, I'm sorry. And then also students use their voice to protest Breonna Taylor's death. And so here's a group of students that you probably know that go to a number of schools in Jefferson County, and this is how they use their voice. My goodness. Well, I can't show the video, so I will just go to the next slide. And so what we want students to understand is that even though we do not want students to feel like that they should not be proud of their neighborhood, because that's not what we're going to do. We want students to be proud of where they're from. I, for one, grew up in the West End, and I love the West End. But we want students to be able to see what is it that you love about your neighborhood and what is it that you could change in your neighborhood. And so one of those projects could be them providing a fresh market in their neighborhood because they're of the food desert, because of the lack of grocery stores in the community. And so Matt and his students we're talking about using a mobile food justice truck where this bus could travel to all parts of the community and help those residents with urban gardens. And then we could take it a step further. I mean, what is wrong with us in the Jefferson County, where in the West End, where we could have a fresh open market of all of the gardens that are in the West End, where some of the schools are even planting food, but we sell it at a fresh open garden that's ran by our students in our community. So this project has so many capabilities, and we know that once our students get a hold of it, that it will change. We just have the blueprint. We're just going to send it out there, but we understand that our students are coming to us with bigger and better ideas. We also understand that students love Jefferson County, and our alumni want to work with us. We have students here. You see Matt with his students who graduated in 2019 and 2020, but still want to come back to work with our students in Justice Now. And we want to provide a place for them to mentor our students and to help our students so they can turn around and do the same things to the students that come up in the future.
And so this summer, we know our alumni were really active. You know, Ariana Tule is down there in the bottom left-hand corner. She was one of the original Aspen Challenge participants in Louisville. Since she's graduated, she's continued to work with the Aspen Challenge. There's an article attached on here about how she talks about the revolution is not optional, you know, and we all have our place in this. And Justice Now has a major place in this as we empower students to really embrace Dr. King's fierce urgency of now. And now is not a time for apathy or indifference, but it's a time for a multitude of positive actions. And so that's what Justice Now really is. We're dedicating ourselves to our kids to empower them to do good works. So we'll take a major issue like the rights for all people, right? And there's going to be many projects on that one issue, and that's what we'll be presenting at Justice Fest. And so the message of Justice Now is spreading throughout the community. You know, and the Courier Journal did an article on us a little while ago, and you see the young prodigies up there behind Ariana Tule, and how, you know, we're dedicating this hub to empower students to solve systemic issues in Louisville. Our kids can't vote, but they got a voice and they got power and they can change things. They know they've inherited systems that have been, in many cases, designed against them, and they're not fair. And so we're about empowering them to be the change. We're also going to be presenting at a conference this Saturday that JCTA Racial Equity Committee is putting on. It's called Filling in the Gaps, Whole Child Education in a COVID World. There's a link down there. It says bit.ly. You can see that. You can still sign up for that. And it's an all-star cast of presenters.
And so what we want you to understand is that we're all in this together, and that with Justice Now Learning Hubs and DEP, that we will be able to help and mentor about 250 Jefferson County students. And so what we want you to do is to repeat after us. What do we want?
Justice.
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.